many people here in the room, either on your own or through referrers, market for lawsuits through web advertising? I'm guessing many, many people here in the room. Big Voodoo, who's the sponsor for this, is going to come up for a few minutes, not to talk about their wares and what they can provide for you, but actually as an education to everybody on web marketing and some changes that have taken place in on Google and other aspects that I bet most of you do not know about. I had a chance to speak with Jim and Mark, principals from Big Voodoo. They've been working with hundreds of law firms, and I was very happy to hear that they're exclusively work for plaintiffs' firms. They've been working with AAJ for a long time, and I think this is a really neat, different kind of, a lot of times sponsors come up here and they talk about what they can do and they sell themselves and they advertise, and these guys didn't want to do that. They recognized that it was an educational program and they want to give you some practice pointers so you can be helped out in these efforts. So Mark and Jim, I'm going to ask you guys to take it away.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and hopefully we do have something, at least a unique perspective to share with you today. And we did want to keep it educational. So, as it says, we're Big Voodoo Interactive. Okay, so a panda, a penguin, and a lawyer walk into a bar, right? They all go down this road, right? Well, the truth is, it's not a joke. It's a very different kind of bar, and it's 3 square inches of very serious real estate today. Everything can be won and lost in that little bar right there. So what we want to do is help you understand what's going on with Google strategically, because Google has made a pretty big strategic leap, I'll say. Not a shift, but a leap. And they've named that through their updates. Have any of you heard of the Panda or Penguin update to Google? So if someone's managing your site, it's the excuse why it's not working. It's why it's struggled. This change is radical in that what they did was they've removed the quantity aspect of marketing online. Lots of sites, lots of links, and they've added the quality elements because they've got such a fine handle on how the algorithm is working. They can actually discern what's a quality site and what's not. Well, so the Panda update, which happened 24 months ago, was about the sites themselves. Your site had to be a quality site. I could go on for 4 days about what makes a quality site versus a high quality site versus a poor quality site. But the Penguin update was about the links, the places that point to your site that say it's a quality site. And so people would have 10,000 links. But now they want to see high quality places voting for high quality places. So it's not so much, like I said, it's more of a leap in that they can fine tune the algorithm now to discern this. So what we did was we wanted to bring you a couple of examples of what this looks like to a website, to the results of a website. So I call this hedging the bet. We take over a website in a major metropolitan market. They've never been past page 5. They don't even believe it's possible. And we say, well, we can get you there. So we get them to page 1. And all of a sudden, 840 visits. They're on page 1. 30-plus case inquiries coming in. They're amazed. They've had nothing for years. They've spent money. They've had nothing come in. But they didn't believe us from the start. So they hedged their bet. And they hired another national vendor to launch another site simultaneously, but didn't tell us. And it was a practice area site. It was keyword loaded. Trucking accident lawyer, let's say Phoenix. He's from Phoenix.com. And so what I know in this industry is more people selling you more little component pieces so aggressively. There's a whole industry of people selling these particular domain names. So they launched this site. They said, what's the harm? If we get one case, it pays for that site. Well, here's the harm. When they launched the second site, it tanked the first site. It took it down. And now it's losing over half of its visits. It's down to 10 emails. And we say, turn it off. Turn it off. They say, we can't. We have a contract that goes for 24 more months. We can't afford to turn it off. But you know what? By the 5th month, they realized that even if they had to pay for it, they couldn't afford to keep it on because this thing was starting to really cook. And so they turned it off. Want to guess when? July. Boom. It bounced right back. What is Google trying to tell us? Let me show you another example. I call this one Staff for War because this firm, they had 6 people, pretty technically savvy, knew what they were doing, understood search. They just launched their 5th practice area website on top of it, statewide firm, pretty good size. And, they were pretty happy. 2,200 visits, 50 case inquiries coming in off the site directly that they could attribute. Okay, this is pretty good. But they had a problem. Why'd they call us? Because they couldn't get to page 1 for any of the key terms. They just couldn't get there. Okay, so what that told them was that all those results were coming from their offline marketing, TV, direct mail, other stuff they were doing. So they took a leap, and they shut them down, rolled them in. Boom, 3,900 visits almost instantly. But that's not the whole story. They doubled their inquiries coming in, and they tripled their cases they were signing. So it was a really significant leap for them. They're believers. And
reduce their staff by 4 as well.
Yeah, their overhead went down almost double what they pay us. So if something works, do more of it, right? Here's another one where we took a primary site in a major metropolitan market to 2,000 visits, 150 emails. They thought this was great. We're growing. Let's go into the 2 next adjacent markets. But they didn't tell us. They hired a local firm. They soft pedal it, saved some money. But look what happened. Look how recent it is. They just agreed to. We've been showing that. See, I've been on this soapbox for 2 years, and I'll show you why in a second. And so they're there. They're okay. Let's shut it off. Let's get it back to where it was, and quickly. From 150 inquiries to 82 is a big leap once you start getting those coming in. So, but I know. I think that you as a group are skeptical, and I am too. And so I was, where's some definitive proof? This site, useit.com, is an 18-year-old website run by Jakob Nielsen, okay? He is the usability guru on the web. The first book I ever read in '96 on usability was written by Jakob. This site that he has looked like this for 18 years. It's defiantly undesigned on purpose. He refused to add graphics. It's all about the usability, the content. It's one of the leading usability sites on the web up until 3 weeks ago. And they shut it down and rolled it into this site. This is Jakob's corporate site, Nielsen Norman Group. That's Jakob in the corner. So, what makes a rebel shut down a site after 18 years when age of a site is a critical component? Google was penalizing both sites, and that's the thing that you have to keep in mind. They're doing it because they really had no choice. They were probably disappearing off the search results. So, the investors in my company, they always ask, how do you know this? Why do you know this? Where did you get this? What tea leaves are you reading? And I thought about that, and I said, well, we're not really reading any tea leaves. Google's Matt Cutts posted on YouTube every Monday. We just go watch the videos. He tells us where he's going. And look at where this first one was, March 4th, 2009. But let me play for you what he said.
But it's not that we try to always return brands. We try to return whatever we think the best results are for users. So the net update, the net upshot of this change is pretty simple. We try to return high-quality results. We think a lot about trust, reputation, authority, PageRank. And so what you should be doing doesn't change. Try to make a great site. Try to make it the site that is so fantastic that you sort of become known as an authority in your niche. And it doesn't have to be a big niche. It doesn't have to be, a huge, well-known keyword. It can be a smaller niche. And if you're still the expert, that's the sort of thing that people are going to want to link to, that they'll talk about, the sort of things that people will really enjoy. And those are the sorts of sites, the experts, that we want to bring back.
Okay, he used the word authority twice, and that's Google's code word for a single site. But you have to be pretty deep into this to even pick up on something like that. That's what they call an authority site. So, what about keyword-loaded sites? So, PaxilInjury.com, you know. There's just these things get launched in such volume sometimes. It amazes me, and at such great expense. So what does he say about having those?
And some people have complained that we're giving a little too much weight for keywords and domains. And so we have been thinking about adjusting that mix a little bit and sort of turning the knob down within the algorithm so that given two different domains, it wouldn't necessarily help you as much to have a domain with a bunch of keywords in it.
Wouldn't necessarily help you as much. Turning down the knob in the algorithm, it's such a soft sell that it's hard to pull it out of the noise. And so with that, what does he say about having multiple sites?
If you had 5 or 6 domain names and they all ended in .com and they all were almost identical content, then in theory our algorithms would typically detect that as duplicate and usually just show one example instead of 5 or 6.
So what does that mean? That means that if you have multiple sites, it's going to push 4 of them down, and it's not going to lift the one with the keyword, and it's going to dilute the authority of the main site. So at the end of the day, if you build one really robust main site, you can deploy case types very quickly and get to the top of Google much more quickly. So you can actually save on the investment, build a better mousetrap, and get there quicker. So the thing is that if I played this video for 10 IT people, we'd end up in what we call a nerd fight, which no one wins. And they would argue all different points of this and draw different conclusions. So, you know, it reminds me of Alan Greenspan. You know, I call him the Riddler because this guy could talk, and I'd listen, and I'd say, what did he just say? I couldn't make sense of it, you know? And so one night, I'm clicking through TV, and he's on Charlie Rose. And Charlie's asking him, why the riddles? Can't you just tell us, Alan? And he says, well, there's so many interdependent variables that we deal with the fundamentals, but it's up to you to figure out how they apply to your business. Not me. I can't tell you how it affects your business. I'm just telling you fundamentally where we're going with this. So I thought that was a great explanation. It made sense. I tied it back to Matt Cutts. But Charlie pushed him and said, come on, but still, couldn't you at least, you know, be a little more specific? And he said, well, no. The reason is because we'll roil entire markets. And we don't want to do that. That's not our job. So if Google came out and said this stuff in a very definitive way, there's entire industries around selling keyword domain names, and it would just shut them down. GoDaddy would go broke. They wouldn't be able to afford a Super Bowl commercial. So anyway, so I see Matt Cutts a little bit like him, but he's talking about Google. Google is trying to send us clues on what to do, and we have the science to back it. And that, I think, is, you know, this industry, the legal industry, is the worst offender because so many people are trying to sell you so many things. And it's hard to discern the expertise of someone when you don't have that expertise. How do you even know who to listen to? So it's a very tricky scenario. And so I thought showing a little bit of science might help. But the real reason is, why is Google doing this? Well, what's their brand stand for? Organizing the world's information. Well, if I tell you that you can beat him by having 2 sites when he has 1, then why not have you have 4? By the time I get to the back of the room, we have 700 sites, all for one thing, because you're all trying to beat each other to the first page. Well, Google doesn't want to, you know, return. I mean, how are they going to sift through that and organize it? It becomes impossible. So they're saying 1 site per person. Now, it causes some business problems sometimes for some people, but you have to work through it if you want to work through Google, because they're calling the shots. So how do they maintain 70% market share for so long? By protecting their consumer experience. I mean, they just have the best site. So anyway, the panda, the bartender turns to the panda and says, what are you having? And the panda says, well, I like what's best. What's your most popular drink? And the bartender says, that's easy. We're known for our margaritas. So panda says, great, I'll have one. He turns to the penguin, and he says, how about you, little guy? What are you having? Penguin says, well, I like what the panda likes. But you know what? Make mine with Patron and add some ice. I'm a penguin. Okay. So by now he turns to the lawyer, and the lawyer is completely irritated. He just served a panda and a penguin ahead of him. And he says, what are you having, pal? And he says, I'll tell you what's popular, martinis, because that's what lawyers like. So the bartender says, okay. Makes some martini, he turns the panda and the penguin, and he says, yeah, I'm used to it. A lot of lawyers don't get this bar. So what do you have to do today? You have to build consumer experience, not just spam Google. You have to build a credible reputation, not just game the system. And you have to build a branded site that will pull people in half a second. They have to know what you do, why you do it, and why it's important. And we say cases, not just clicks. We don't have time for questions. The music is playing. But if
We're
you
out
have
of time, but
questions,
let me make one quick point of clarification. Jim said we build websites for law firms. Really, that's not true. We build websites for people, the consumers that are looking to hire a lawyer, and that's an important distinction for all the reasons he's so eloquently outlined here. But that's why the sites work.
we'll be at the bar. Thank you.
Overnight, we saw an incredible difference.
Cases, and not just clicks.
Now web intakes are surpassing everything around here.
Their program is unique,
It's amazing.
innovative. This campaign produces